Race 11, and we are in Nigeria. On pole is Sebastian Ocampo, then it's Catfish and Marcus Nelson. Falstad starts 4th from New Cable, and Revo in 6th. Then it's Ica World, the Red Devil, and Pierre Gasly starts 9th. Tommy is 10th from Pablo Sierra, Babinus Jr., Remy LeBeau, and Zach Wallace in 14th. And it's Dav Sanchez, Nam Nawawi, Daniel Bob Dusarov, Tenawi Gabo, Alistair Clerk, then Alan Lee, teammate Anok Yu, and Zay Lane. At back rows look the same for quite a while, but up front it's the championship leader, Sebastian Ocampo, alongside him, Catfish, who in Kuala Lumpur took home his first win. All 5 lights go on. And we are underway in Abuja. That's a very good start from both front row men. Looking at Marcus Nelson trying to get alongside Catfish off the line. Don't think he got the start he needed to do that. As they come through turn number 1, Catfish keeping Ocampo on his toes, looks to the outside, doesn't quite get the move done, but he's still there with him. Heading into turn number 4 as Bogdasarov gets a time penalty, and Catfish has taken the lead. Ocampo's dropped down to 3rd. Falstad and New Cable behind in the Philippine man, and who just missed out on a race when at home. They're still fighting over the position, and out of the race has gone Ica World. Virtual safety car on lap 1. This track has quite the record of first lap safety cars and virtual safety cars when run. But it is Catfish who currently leads the way for Sims Porsche DS. We do have confirmation that officially Andretti and Venturi will continue with DS powertrains. As for McLaren, we're not too sure on them, as the virtual safety car now ends and we're back underway. And for Sims, the Porsche powertrain is almost ready and will be ready for the first pre-season test. We will have 2 different pre-season tests, one for the FE series and another for IndyCar. Leclerc, the man who won last time out, dropped to the back of the pack. He's now found his way up into 20th. Doesn't seem to have any damage. So for the man who's trying to stage a championship comeback, being down in 20th position after winning a race is not how you'd want to do that. Although I will say this about Leclerc's win last time out. It was quite impressive. Had there been 2 more laps in that race, either he would have had to pit, or his tyres would have gone pop, or he would have been passed. The fact that the race was as long as it was the main reason that Leclerc's strategy would have worked out. And for Nawawi, it just didn't seem to, as Wallace getting uber close to the wall, just about keeping it out of there, as Ben Allen Lee, his teammate Inoki, what a send from the Hong Kong driver up into 17th. That was quite the lunge. Haven't seen such vigor from the number 25 man in a long time. Brilliant to see that he is still there. Catfish setting a fastest second sector of anyone at 27.283. So he's coming through the 3rd sector. You can see minor adjustments to the advertising banners as Revo getting a track limit warning. You get 4 of those in a race, and that's a 5-second time penalty. Slam dunk, which you will have to serve in the pits or at the end of the race. Heading on to lap number 3, Nelson's right on the back, and alongside Falstad with the fastest lap of 120.9, and it's a 4-way fight for the lead. The top 4 separated by 0.5 of a second as they exit turn number 3. It's Catfish from Nelson and Ocampo, as the DS man and the Andretti man going side by side. Yellow's in the opening sector, however, halting procedures. Gasly facing the wrong direction with a time penalty, and oh my great heavens, Babinus Jr. is out as well. The Red Devil out of this race. Oh great heavens, what was that? And that's actually stopped the fight further up as Marcus Nelson has got a puncture. It's not just Gasly out, it's not just Babinus Jr. out, it is Marcus Nelson with a front puncture. Virtual safety car is ending and we get back underway. You can see that those softs should have been good until about lap 4 or 5. But for Marcus Nelson, little luck gained here in Nigeria, as his front tyre has packed it up and called it a day. And that's actually given Ocampo and Catfish quite the buffer to Falstad, Ucable, and Revo behind. So that could come back to bite the other DS Cheetah driver. But for the number 13 driver of Marcus Nelson, well, he says that 13 is his lucky number. I'd say that 3 is his unlucky number as we go into lap 4 of 12. And if Nelson does manage to win this race, it would be such a feel-good story. In comes Ucable from 4th position, the Red Devil following him in, and he's got front wing damage. That's contact during the entire Gasly Babinus Jr. incident. Catfish still leads this race. Last time he led a race this convincingly was Kuala Lumpur, and he won that race. It was Sims Motorsport's first ever race win, as Ben Allen Lee getting a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision. But on the topic of Sims Motorsport, they are still yet to take their second win. But we know for a fact that they're going to want it. They are going to want it more than any other team. Leclerc's fight back has been incredible. Up 7 positions from 20th, which is where he was around lap number 12. Lap number 1 rather, not 12. But Gabo and Ben Allen Lee still fighting over 14th position there, as Ocampo with attack mode. But not just that, absolutely shredded soft tyres. The 2 Renault drivers, by the way, both with 5-second time penalties, but into the pits come the race leaders. And it's now going to be a race of an entirely different kind, a race outside of the driver's control, mainly. It's all going to be about which team can get their tyres changed quickest. That's a very good stop from Sims down at Andretti. I'd say they had quite possibly, yes, it was a much better stop from Sims. But somehow Andretti pulled something out of there, and Ocampo has come out of the pits ahead of Catfish. So he's overtaken him in the pits. The pit crew down at DS Andretti, they're surely going to get a raise of some form after that stop, because there's no way that they're going to let that go unrewarded. And RQ swings very wide, trying to attack Daf Sanchez right in front of him. Soft tyres definitely beginning the end of their usable life, as the race leader Revo on those soft tyres. Lucky that he's not in any way really being challenged, and so will be fine until he gets into the pit box. As an RQ and Ocampo fighting over 7th. I thought it was Sanchez, but no, Sanchez streaking away from the Nissan driver. Catfish getting past him as well. Sims Porsche have announced a partnership with Manthey Racing. That seems to be a technical partnership as well, so for Sims, I think what they're trying to do is build some form of super team, as if they were, I guess, Hendrick, as in comes all of the drivers, and Pablo Sierra's into the pits as well. We saw in the last 2 races how much of an impact that 5-second time penalty will have on your race. He and Gabo both come in with time penalties being raised on their jacks, and now lowered they are to have their tyres changed. Still a very quick stop from the Renault man indeed. Bob Tasarov also had a time penalty and served that in the pits. But out in front, it is Remy LeBeau leading from Sebastian Ocampo and Catfish. Remy himself has gone on record to say that his team, Kiro Renault, just doesn't seem like they can really get good finishes in Nigeria. As here comes Ocampo looking to go around the outside of the sophomore driver. The driver in a sophomore season. Hard tyres on that Kiro Renault car. He's the only one on the hard tyres. We don't actually expect Kiro to continue with Renault, but Remy has dropped down to 3rd position. Little defense offered in the way of that highlight green car, similar to Danica Patrick's GoDaddy schemes. But we are at half race distance in Nigeria, and Ocampo is leading from Catfish and Remy LeBeau. But we do expect the Frenchman to pit very soon 48% tire wear on those hards with 5 laps left to run. Cable's currently 4th with Forstad right behind him with attack mode wide open on that DS McLaren TGR car. Zay Lane comes into the pits at the end of his lap 6 as we're watching Forstad close into the back of his fellow World Drivers Champion, Season 10 versus Season 18 rather. Not 17. Season 17 was when Forstad joined the ERL, and while it was a very prosperous season for the man who spent every season of his career at McLaren, he just couldn't quite stick the landing. He certainly stuck the landing in Season 18 as he gets past one of the men he was fighting for the Season 18 championship with in Cable. He's on the back of Remy LeBeau, another driver who had a brilliant debut season. In fact, with these 3 drivers from 3rd down to 5th, I'm pretty sure all of them got their first race win in their first seasons of competition. In fact, excluding Catfish, the top 5 are filled with some of the most talented drivers who have taken their first race wins in the first race in their first seasons. Catfish, certainly a very talented driver, but his first race win came in London Season 2, and he's looking to try and get another one in Abuja as he takes the race lead in Nigeria. Remy LeBeau finally comes into the pits, but still side by side. This has been the fight for the lead, Malaysia versus the Philippines, in the year where we've finally seen a race in Malaysia. That race won by one of their own, and there is no longer a Nigerian driver on the field, so we will likely not see the Abuja E3 won by one of their own for a long while as Ocampo up into the race lead through turn 10. He looked to make that dive, and he's made it work for now. 3/10 is the gap between the top 2. In terms of how likely Catfish is going to try and come back at him, as long as he can keep that gap small, it's going to be unbelievably likely. But look at those mediums, blistering already. He might want to pit at the end of this lap. Might be smarter to try and go for the overcut, considering how vital tire life is, especially in the heat and humidity of Nigeria. As they now round out the final turn, there's certainly a fight going on behind them. Ocampo bites the bullet first and peels into the pits. Catfish leads and will start lap number 9. As the Red Devil, defending from both Sanchez and Leclerc, is currently in 12th. His progress seemed to have halted after the second round of pit stops. Right before the second round of pit stops as he comes in. Cable also into the pits. And there are a few laps left to run as we now watch Catfish, the race leader himself. He's been in multiple championship battles, but in the 3 most notable ones, he was not the focal point at his own team because he and his teammate Rodney Sola, they were both fighting against Mercedes in their hunts for the championship. They took the Constructors in Season 4. They took the Constructors and Drivers in Season 5. But the Drivers' Cup went to Rodney in every incident. He was just beating his teammates. And finally got to take home that Cup in Season 5. But still on board with Catfish, one of the best wingmen in the ERL, as he's going to try and take a race in today in Abuja, and not just that, try and get himself into the title fight, because there was a point in time where he was leading the championship after Kuala Lumpur. 6 races later, it may have seemed like he's left the title fight entirely, but the top 8 teams are all in championship contention as Sanchez drops like a rock down to 10th. Gabo and Bogdasarov both into the pits. They're both going on to softs, I presume, yes. So if you pit now, soft tires are the likely option. For Catfish right now, 41% tire wear, 40% tire wear. He's going to have to pit at the end of this lap, surely. And that's all going to be down to whether or not the overcut is going to work. On board with Pablo Sierra, defending from an RQ while trying to find a way to attack Mohamed Awawi. This is one of the trickiest parts of racing in Formula E. It's all about whether or not you can just drive on the knife edge that you need to try and take home a race win, or even just solid points, as Sanchez being denied of 9th position by an RQ, and in fact 11th position slipping out of his grasp, and if he's not careful, 12th position as well, because he's got a very hungry champion right behind him, and that's U-Cable taking 11th position away from Sanchez. He's dropped outside of the points as we're now onto the penultimate lap. Catfish is still out there with his mediums. Here comes Falstad to take seconds away from Revo. Does it quite quickly, and his teammate and Revo's own countryman, Zach Wallace, on his tail. Wallace, I don't think, has a podium to his name. Today could be the day where he takes his first. Revo going in very deep, and Falstad getting a track limits warning. What is Wallace going to do here? He's on the outside of Revo, side by side, and in fact up into third already. But is he going to try and go after his teammate, or will team orders be the order of the day? 5-second time penalty for an RQ, track limits violations. He's gotten 4 of those, and in fact 2 at the exact same place on the same lap, because of the way we have our sensors set up. Sanchez going alongside an RQ to try and take 11th away from the Hong Kong man down the inside of turn 10, and that is 11th for Sanchez. Remy going alongside and past Mohamed Awawi. U-Cable and Pablo Sierra fighting over 7th position, and the Briton up into 7th now. But the man who's leading this race is on 24% tyre wear. This is not going to end well for Catfish. He saw what they were trying to do down at Trackhouse with that one-stop strategy last time out. And in fact, the top 3 are all trying to do it. We're on to the final lap in Abuja. Catfish leads the way from Revo and Oscar Falstad. But I think out of the top 3, the only one who could theoretically make it to the end of the race with no issue is Revo. And that's the wall! Race leader Catfish is in the barriers! Revo also into the wall and out of the race! That's the man second! Both McLarens also into the barriers! Virtual safety car is called! DS Yoshida with another woeful weekend! Sebastian Ocampo, championship leader, entered this race 1 point down. 1 point up, rather, on Revo. And is now going to increase that championship lead to a minimum of 19 points. It's going to be less because there are still drivers in the hunt for the championship. But his lead over Revo, who I would say is the major man he's got to worry about, is now going to be at least 19 points because he's 3 seconds out of Falstad, 4 seconds out of Falstad, and closing in on Catfish, who's going for his 2nd race win this season and a 2nd race win for Sims Porsche. 1.4 seconds, 1.2 seconds. He rounds the final turn, and it's going to be close, but the checkered flag will come in the nick of time for Catfish, who coming out of turn number 26 will come home and win the Abuja Prix from Ocampo and Falstad. Zach Wallace comes home with a career best 4th place finish. It's a 3-4 for McLaren. Tommy is 5th, and look at that, puncture for Pablo Sierra. Right before the race ends, Bogdasarov at the very last moment with a time penalty of his own. And that's been quite the eventful final few laps in Nigeria. And for Catfish, if it wasn't for Revo crashing out, if that hadn't happened, I can assure you, Ocampo would have been much closer than 0.2 of a second away. Marcus Nelson snags the fastest lap. But this is the podium then. Catfish takes home victory in Abuja, and it's a second race win for Sims Porsche, with Sebastian Ocampo coming home in second and Falstad finishing in third. Then it's Zach Wallace, Tommy, U-Cable, Remy LeBeau and Mohamed Awawi from the Red Devil. Daf Sanchez, your point scorers. Pablo Sierra would have been in the points had his tyres not punctured at the tail end of this race. Then Lars Leclerc finished in 12th from Zay Lane and Tenali Gabo, with Bogdasar, Enoch Q, Ben Allen Lee, and Marcus Nelson being the rest of your finishers, with the non-finishers being Revo, Babinas Jr., Gasly, and Ica World. In the driver's standings, Ocampo leads on 108 points from U-Cable and Revo, then it's Falstad and Catfish. The top 5 being the title favourites, with 4 of those already taking home a World Drivers' Championship. Lars Leclerc is 6th from Remy LeBeau and Pablo Sierra. Then it is Marcus Nelson, Zach Wallace, Pierre Gasly, Tenali Gabo, the Red Devil, Ica World, Daf Sanchez, Babinas Jr., Bogdasar, Nawawi, Zay Lane, Tommy, Ben Allen Lee, and Enoch Q, who is still yet to score any points in the Constructors' table, heading into the next round of the championship, the penultimate round in San Marino. DS Andretti now leads from DS Techeetah and Power Renault. Then it's DS McLaren TGR, Sims Porsche DS, Kero Renault, Trackhouse Renault, and Renault EDAMS. Before talking about DS Venturi, I would just like to point out 141 points to 91 points. That's 50 points, or 2 race wins, separating 1st to 8th. This is an insanely close title battle in every sense of the term. DS Venturi is 9th from Mercedes EQ and Nissan Nismo, who only has 5 points to their name. We'll see you guys next time then, when the ERL Formula E Series returns.